The alien princess thought her human husband was harmless, until his fury. Shimmering light reflected off every surface, casting rainbows across the sky. Birds, or creatures very much like birds but covered in feathers of silver and gold, sang as the city came alive. Today was not an ordinary day. It was the day Princess Liara, the youngest and most celebrated daughter of the Zalarian Empire, was to be married. And not to another Zalarian, but to a human, a representative from the distant planet Earth named Ethan. Liara floated gracefully through the palace halls, her long gown of deep violet trailing behind her like a comet's tail. Her many eyes sparkled with anticipation. Humans, she thought, were fragile and small. They lacked the strength, speed, and intelligence of her people. Ethan, gentle and polite, had seemed harmless from the moment he arrived. But the marriage was political, meant to secure an alliance that would protect both planets from potential enemies in the galaxy. The palace was alive with movement. Servants moved with precise efficiency, preparing food, arranging flowers, and polishing the crystalline floors until they gleamed. The air smelled faintly of sweet spices and ozone, a scent unique to Zalaria. Liara paused for a moment in the grand hall, her eyes scanning the crowd of alien nobles who had gathered to witness the ceremony. Many looked at Ethan with barely concealed amusement. "Do you think he will survive the ceremony?" one noble whispered to another, their voice like the tinkling of distant bells. "He is a human," the other replied with a laugh. "Small, fragile, and completely unprepared for Zalarian customs, it will be entertaining." Liara's eyes narrowed slightly, though she smiled politely. She was accustomed to such comments. Humans were weak in body, strange in thought, and often naive about the universe beyond their world. But she had promised to give this union her attention. And Ethan had shown a quiet determination that intrigued her. The ceremony began in the grand chamber, a hall so vast that its ceilings seemed to touch the sky. Beams of light refracted through the walls, creating shifting patterns on the floor. Liara glided down the aisle, every movement controlled, graceful, perfect. Ethan followed, his own appearance modest but respectable. He wore a suit that to human eyes seemed simple, but in Zalarian terms was perfectly acceptable. The officiant, a tall and elegant Zalarian with translucent wings, began the ceremony. Words in the ancient Zalarian tongue filled the hall, echoing off the crystalline walls. Liara felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. She had known humans could be unpredictable, but she had never imagined a human marrying a princess of her status. Could he truly understand the responsibility he was taking on? As the ceremony progressed, Ethan's calm demeanor surprised her. He did not fumble, did not stumble, and his voice, though soft, carried clearly across the hall. He answered every question correctly, followed every tradition precisely, and even managed a polite smile when the officiant made a subtle joke. The nobles whispered again, impressed despite themselves. After the vows, the newlyweds were presented to the crowd. Liara could see the subtle surprise in the eyes of her people. The human, once thought fragile, was steady, composed, and seemingly confident. She found herself reconsidering her assumptions, though she refused to admit it aloud. The celebration moved to the palace gardens, a vast outdoor space filled with alien flora, glowing rivers, and floating lanterns. The air was alive with music, unlike anything on Earth, a melody that seemed to resonate with the soul itself. Guests danced, laughed, and celebrated, while humans and Zalarian alike mingled. Ethan followed Liara through the crowd, nodding politely to those who bowed or offered compliments. It was during this moment of relative calm that the first sign of danger appeared. A shadow passed over the gardens, darkening the floating lanterns and silencing the birds. Liara's eyes widened. She was trained to notice threats instantly. From the sky, sleek ships descended, black and angular, their shapes unlike any Zalarian design. The crowd gasped, and chaos began to ripple through the gardens. "Attackers!" shouted a guard, drawing a weapon that shimmered with energy. Liara's first instinct was to flee, but then she saw Ethan. He did not panic. Instead, he scanned the situation quickly, his eyes sharp, his mind working faster than most humans she had ever met. Without hesitation, he grabbed her hand and guided her behind a large crystal fountain, using it as cover. "They're not going to stop at just chaos," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We need to get everyone inside fast." Liara blinked, calm, fast, strategic. Ethan, the harmless human, was thinking and acting like a commander. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with a strange mixture of awe and doubt. Could this human really be as harmless as she thought? The guards responded to Ethan's direction surprisingly quickly. He gave clear instructions, moving among them like a conductor leading an orchestra. Form a line at the south gate. Use the shields there. Move the children and elders first. His voice carried authority, and the guards obeyed without question. Even the nobles, who had doubted him moments before, hesitated but eventually followed. Liara realized something extraordinary. Humans, though physically weaker, could think in ways that even Xylarian minds sometimes could not. Ethan was using creativity, strategy, and decisive action in the heat of the moment. He improvised with whatever was at hand, turning fountains into barriers, hanging lanterns into distractions, and even coordinating some guards to use energy nets against the descending ships. The attackers, seeing resistance, were momentarily confused. They had expected panic, chaos, and easy victory. Instead, they met calm determination and unexpected ingenuity. The small human was proving to be a far greater threat than any of them had imagined. Liara's heart raced as she watched Ethan move. He was gentle with those who panicked, firm with those who hesitated, and fearless when he confronted the alien raiders. Each action was precise, calculated, and effective. She had thought humans were delicate, fragile, and incapable of true power. But here he was, commanding, protecting, and solving problems with a clarity she had never witnessed. As the first wave of attackers retreated, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, the palace guards regrouped. They had suffered minimal losses, thanks to Ethan's guidance. Liara approached him, her many eyes wide with a mixture of shock and admiration. You saved many of them," she said softly. Ethan simply nodded. "We all did it together, but this is only the beginning. If they return, we need to be ready." Her mind reeled. This human, whom she had once thought harmless, was anything but. His fury was not anger, not a wild rage. It was something else entirely, a controlled, determined force that could not be stopped when it was aimed at protecting others. She felt both fear and admiration stir in her chest. The guests, now gathered safely inside the palace, whispered among themselves. The nobles who had doubted Ethan were silent, their assumptions shattered. They looked to Liara, who stood beside her new husband, her thoughts racing. Could it be that humans, so small and seemingly weak, possessed a strength no one expected? That night, as the celebrations resumed in a more subdued manner, Liara found herself watching Ethan from across the hall. He moved quietly among the guests, helping where needed, speaking to the injured guards and planning for what might come next. She realized that she had misjudged him completely. He was not weak. He was not harmless. And in the quiet of her heart, she felt something she had never admitted: respect. The city of Xylaria shimmered outside the palace walls, unaware that the marriage of a princess to a human diplomat had already changed the course of history. The first test had come and passed, and Liara understood that the real challenge had only just begun. The human at her side, who seemed so fragile, might one day prove to be the most powerful ally, and perhaps the most fearsome force she had ever known. And as she stood there beside him, Liara realized that her life and the fate of her people was about to change forever. The next morning, the palace was calm on the surface, but beneath the polished floors and crystal halls, tension simmered like molten metal. Princess Liara walked quietly beside Ethan through the corridors, her mind still swirling from the events of the previous night. The human had surprised her, not with brute strength, but with sharpness of mind, quick decision-making, and courage that even seasoned Xylarian warriors lacked. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked softly, her many eyes scanning the shadowed corners of the hall. Ethan glanced around, his jaw set. "They always come back. That's what makes this a test. We just need to be ready." Liara nodded. She admired his calmness, though she still found it strange. Humans were supposed to panic, to tremble in the face of danger. Yet Ethan moved as if the chaos of last night had been nothing more than a lesson. The palace commander, a towering Xylarian named Valor, approached. His wings rustled as he walked, a sound like wind through reeds. "Your Highness, human representative," he said, inclining his head toward Ethan. "We need a strategy. Reports suggest the attackers are not a small raiding party, but a well-organized force with a fleet approaching the planet." Ethan listened carefully, then pointed to a series of holographic screens showing the incoming ships. He tapped on one, enlarging the image of a black, angular cruiser. "Their fleet is fast, and they rely heavily on coordinated attacks. he observed. They expect us to respond like they always do. Predictable. Liara's eyes narrowed. Predictable, you mean? They assume we will panic or follow standard defense patterns, Ethan replied. But humans were good at adapting. We can do what they don't expect. The commander looked skeptical. Adaptation is good, but we face advanced weapons, shields, and more than a dozen ships. Your strategies, human ones, are unconventional. Ethan smiled faintly. Sometimes unconventional is exactly what's needed. Liara's heart raced. Last night, unconventional had worked, but the real test was about to come. By mid-morning, the palace gates were fortified and the guards prepared for the attackers' return. Ethan moved among them, observing, suggesting improvements, and giving directions that were both practical and surprising. Where Zalarian soldiers had focused only on shields and energy barriers, he pointed out the importance of timing, positioning, and using the environment to their advantage. He noticed a decorative fountain near the main gate, with its flowing water and tall crystal spouts. While Zalarian guards saw it only as decoration, Ethan saw a tool. "We can use the fountain," he said. "The water can reflect their sensors, creating blind spots, and the crystals can redirect their energy blasts if we angle them right." The commander raised an eyebrow. "You want to use the fountain in battle?" "Yes," Ethan replied calmly. "It's small, but it gives us an advantage they won't expect." Liara felt her chest tighten. Humans were fragile, yes, but their minds were dangerous weapons. She had never realized how creative a human could be in the heat of battle. As the sun reached its highest point, dark silhouettes appeared in the sky. The raiders were back. Their ships cut through the atmosphere like black arrows, engines humming with quiet menace. Citizens panicked, fleeing toward the safety of the palace interior, but Ethan stayed at the gate, directing guards with clear, precise commands. "Positions," he called. "Shields ready, reflectors aligned, watch the flanks." The first wave of attackers struck suddenly, firing energy beams at the walls. Crystals shattered, fountains splashed, and chaos threatened to overtake the palace grounds. But Ethan's preparations worked. Water from the fountain reflected beams away, while crystal shards refracted energy in unpredictable directions. Guards, following his instructions, managed to repel several ships without suffering casualties. Liara watched wide-eyed as Ethan moved from group to group, pointing out weak spots, suggesting maneuvers, and improvising as the situation changed. One small unit of raiders tried to sneak through a side entrance, expecting empty halls. Ethan anticipated them and had set up traps using hanging lanterns and decoy guards. The intruders were captured before they could reach the main palace chambers. Her mind spun. This human was more than clever. He was unstoppable in his determination. He did not fight like a creature of instinct or rage. He fought with his mind, predicting enemy moves, adapting, and turning every disadvantage into an advantage. During a brief pause in the fighting, Liara approached him. "Ethan, you're remarkable," she said softly. "I thought humans were weak, fragile, incapable of defending themselves against threats like this. Yet here you are, strong, fearless, and clever." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not fearless," he said. "I'm determined. That's what humans do. We protect what matters. We find ways to survive, to win, even when the odds seem impossible." Liara considered his words, determination, not rage, not brute force, but something equally, if not more powerful. And then she noticed something else. His eyes, steady and calm even in the chaos, carried a quiet fury. Not anger, but a fierce commitment to protect. It was the first time she realized that a human's fury could be as dangerous as any weapon in the galaxy. The battle continued for hours. The raiders' ships were fast, agile, and deadly. Zalarian shields, though advanced, could not block every blast, and yet under Ethan's guidance the defenders held. He suggested small, unpredictable maneuvers, dividing the forces, luring attackers into traps, and using the terrain of the city to their advantage. One particularly large raider ship approached the palace's main gate, firing blasts that threatened to pierce the walls. Ethan assessed the situation quickly. "Use the smaller ships as bait," he instructed. "Lead it toward the outer gardens. The crystals there can refract its blasts. Then we strike from two sides." Liara watched in awe as his plan unfolded perfectly. Guards and drones followed his strategy, and the raider ship, caught off guard, was forced to retreat after sustaining damage. The crowd of citizens and palace servants erupted into cheers. Even the most skeptical Xylarian nobles whispered among themselves. The human diplomat, once thought delicate, had outsmarted a superior alien force using intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness. By evening, the attackers had retreated. The city was battered but intact. The palace had survived with minimal casualties thanks to Ethan's leadership. Guards and citizens alike praised him, some even bowing in respect, a gesture they rarely gave to outsiders. Liara stood beside him in the quiet of the palace garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. She could see the reflection of her own astonishment in his calm, determined face. "You saved them all," she said again, her voice quiet. You were amazing. I never imagined a human could do this." Ethan shook his head modestly. "I didn't do it alone. Everyone here helped. Humans are small, yes, but we think, we adapt, and we don't give up. That's what made the difference." Liara considered his words, realizing that her assumptions about humans had been completely wrong. They were not weak, not fragile, not harmless. They were unpredictable, clever, and most importantly, relentless when protecting those they cared about. She felt a strange mixture of admiration and fear. This calm, gentle human, who had seemed so harmless when she first met him, had a fury she had never expected. Not anger, not recklessness, but the quiet, unyielding determination of a species willing to face impossible odds and emerge victorious. That night, as the palace rested under a blanket of stars, Liara walked through the gardens alone, thinking. The humans of Earth were small in number, limited in technology compared to the Zalarian Empire, but they had something her people lacked: creativity, courage, and an indomitable spirit. And in Ethan, that spirit shone brighter than she could have imagined. She paused near a fountain, watching the water shimmer in the moonlight. She realized that she had misjudged her husband completely. He was not harmless. He was a force, quiet, thoughtful, and terrifyingly effective, and she knew deep down that this was only the beginning. For in the coming days, the attacks would grow stronger. The enemies would test them further. And Ethan, the human she had once thought weak, would continue to show the galaxy that humans were more than small and fragile. They were capable of greatness, of courage, and of fury that could rival any force in the universe. And Princess Liara, standing beside him, would see firsthand that the human she had married was no ordinary being. He was a protector, a thinker, and a hero. And the galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humans was a mistake no one would make twice. The morning after the first attack, the palace of Zalaria was quiet but tense. The city hummed with life, but everyone knew that the danger was far from over. Princess Liara walked beside Ethan through the halls, her mind still buzzing with the memory of his calm control during the battle. She had watched him guide the guards, outsmart the attackers, and protect everyone without a hint of fear. She realized something important. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability could be more dangerous than the most advanced alien technology. Ethan moved with purpose, leading Liara to a secure room deep in the palace. Holographic screens displayed the last night's events in intricate detail. Ethan's sharp eyes studied the patterns of the attack, noting how the raiders had approached, what weapons they had used, and where their weaknesses might lie. "They were organized," he said, pointing to one of the screens. "But their strategy was too rigid. They follow patterns. If we can predict their moves, we can stop them before they reach the city." Liara nodded. "Your mind works differently from ours," she admitted. "Most Zalarian commanders would have only seen the attack as chaos, but you see it as a puzzle." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans have to solve puzzles like this every day. Survival depends on it. We look for openings, for patterns, for opportunities where others see none." Liara felt a pang of admiration. She had believed that humans were fragile and weak, but Ethan's actions proved otherwise. He was small compared to her people, yes, but his mind was powerful and his determination unyielding. Later that day, reports arrived that one of Liara's closest advisors had been captured by the raiders. The news struck the palace like lightning. This advisor, a wise and trusted Xylarian named Thaler, had been helping to prepare defenses for weeks. His capture was a direct challenge to the princess and her new husband. Liara's first instinct was to organize a formal rescue mission with her guards, but Ethan shook his head. "A direct attack will fail," he said calmly. "They expect that. We need a plan that they won't see coming. We need to use their confidence against them." He quickly studied the city maps and the known locations of the raiders' ships. "There's an old transport tunnel beneath the city," he explained. It's hidden, narrow, and largely unused. We can move through it without being detected and reach Thaler before they realize we're coming. Liara's eyes widened. A secret tunnel? Humans would dare to use that? We adapt, Ethan replied simply. We use what others overlook. And with that, he began to assemble a small team. Humans, Zalarian guards, and volunteers were selected for their agility, intelligence, and courage. Ethan gave each one precise instructions, anticipating what they would need at every step. He trained them quickly, teaching them how to move silently, how to avoid traps, and how to work as a single unit. By nightfall, the rescue mission was ready. Ethan led the group into the old tunnels, moving like a shadow. The passageways were narrow and dark, with walls that seemed to close in around them. Liara followed closely, her trust in Ethan growing with every step. "This way," he whispered, pointing down a side tunnel. "The main guards are stationed near the surface. We avoid them entirely if we move here." The team moved silently, and for hours, Ethan guided them with precision. He anticipated every twist and turn, every potential trap. When they encountered a locked hatch, he improvised a tool from the tunnel walls and opened it without making a sound. When a guard approached, he instructed the team to hide behind shadows and debris until the path was clear. Liara watched, amazed. She had assumed that humans were physically weak and limited in ability, but Ethan's intelligence and adaptability proved otherwise. He turned obstacles into advantages and danger into opportunity. Finally, they reached the room where Thaler was being held. Two raiders guarded the door, their attention fixed on a hollow screen. Ethan gestured to the team. "We take them quietly," he whispered, "one at a time with precision." The team moved as one, like a single organism. The raiders never saw them coming. Within moments, the guards were subdued and the door was opened. Thaler looked up in surprise, his eyes wide. "Ethan, princess," he said. "I didn't think anyone could reach me here." Ethan smiled. "We thought differently. Come on, we have to move quickly." As they escorted Thaler back through the tunnels, the team encountered more obstacles. Collapsed walls, patrolling raiders, and traps set to catch intruders. But Ethan's mind worked quickly. He found alternative routes, improvised tools, and guided his team with calm authority. Every step was calculated, every decision precise. Liara could see it clearly now. Humans were small, yes, but their strength lay in their minds and their determination. Ethan's fury was not about anger. It was a quiet, burning commitment to protect those he cared about. It was this fury that made him more dangerous than any weapon or alien technology. Finally, they emerged from the tunnels onto the outskirts of the city. The stars above were bright and cold, and the air smelled faintly of ozone from the earlier battle. Ethan led the team to a safe location where Thaler could recover. "You've done well," Thaler said, bowing deeply. "Your courage and skill, I have never seen anything like it." Ethan shook his head. "It wasn't courage alone, it was planning, observation, and adaptation. That's what humans do. We survive by thinking." Liara watched, her admiration deepening. She had married this human thinking he was harmless, gentle, and incapable of real strength. But the events of the past 2 days had proven her wrong. Ethan was clever, brave, and determined. He was a force to be reckoned with, and she had only just begun to see the full extent of his abilities. The next day, news arrived that the raiders were regrouping, planning a larger attack. Ethan called a meeting with the palace council and the city's military leaders. He analyzed every detail of the previous battles, predicted the raiders' movements, and proposed a counter-strategy that combined Xylarian technology with human ingenuity. He suggested using decoy ships to mislead the enemy, creating traps with the city's energy grids, and positioning mobile squads in unexpected locations. The plan was unconventional, risky, and brilliant. The council was skeptical. "No Xylarian strategy has ever relied on such unpredictability," one elder said. Ethan smiled. "That's why it will work. They expect predictable behavior. We will be unpredictable." Liara watched him command the room, his calm authority drawing respect even from the most skeptical leaders. She realized something she hadn't understood before. Humans were not only capable of courage, but also of leadership, vision, and strategy that could rival any advanced alien mind. That night, Liara and Ethan walked together through the palace gardens. The air was cool, filled with the scent of alien flowers. She looked at him, her many eyes reflecting the starlight. "You've changed everything," she said softly. I thought humans were fragile, harmless, small, but you— Ethan looked at her, his expression calm. We are what we need to be. Weakness is in the mind as much as in the body. Determination, courage, and creativity, that's where true strength lies. Liara nodded. For the first time, she felt not only respect but also wonder. She had underestimated her husband completely. And in doing so, she had underestimated humanity itself. She thought about the days to come. The raiders were not finished. A larger, more dangerous threat was approaching. But she also knew something important. With Ethan by her side, humans were more than capable of meeting it. They were clever, adaptable, and when needed, unstoppable. And Ethan's hidden strength, the quiet, unyielding fury that drove him to protect those he loved, was only beginning to show. Liara realized that the galaxy had yet to see what humans were truly capable of. And underestimating them would be a mistake that no enemy would ever survive. As they stood together in the garden, the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Liara knew that the days ahead would test them all, but she also knew that humans, led by her husband, had a force that could turn the tide of any battle. Ethan, small and seemingly fragile, was a living proof that appearances could be deceiving. And Princess Liara, watching him, felt a mixture of awe, admiration, and anticipation for what the future would bring. The first rescue had been successful. The first real battle had been won. But the galaxy was vast, full of challenges, and far from finished testing humanity's mettle. And Liara, beside her human husband, would witness how far their courage, ingenuity, and determination could take them. The stars above Zalaria burned cold and distant, but the city below hummed with preparation. After Ethan's successful rescue of Thaler and the repelling of the first attacks, the palace was no longer just a symbol of wealth and power. It had become a fortress. Yet the humans and Xylarians knew the danger was far from over. The raiders were regrouping, stronger and more organized than before, preparing to strike again. Princess Liara moved through the palace halls, her mind tense but focused. She watched as guards trained, as scientists and engineers reinforced shields, and as Ethan moved among them, calm and decisive. She had long since stopped thinking of him as harmless. Now he was the anchor in a storm, the mind guiding the chaos into order. The main raider base is not far from here, Ethan said, standing over a holographic map of the surrounding star systems. His fingers traced the path through asteroid belts, mining stations, and abandoned colonies. They believe the attack on the palace last night will discourage us. That is their mistake. We will strike at the source. That is how wars are won, not just by defense, but by taking initiative. Liara nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and determination. She had seen humans act with bravery, ingenuity, and resilience, but she had never realized the full extent of Ethan's abilities. His calm demeanor, his precision, his unshakable focus, all of it was now aimed at turning the tide of an entire battle. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Ethan would lead a small strike team of humans and Zalarian soldiers directly to the raiders' main base. The base was heavily fortified, located on a rocky, barren moon and surrounded by defensive fields and automated drones. Any direct attack would be suicidal. Yet Ethan's mind thrived on challenges. He divided the team into small, coordinated units. Each unit had a specific objective: disable shields, sabotage weapons, rescue captives, and gather intelligence. Unlike the Zalarian commanders, who often relied on overwhelming strength, Ethan relied on strategy, timing, and creativity. Every move was calculated, every contingency planned for. "We do not attack blindly," he said to the team, his voice calm but firm. "We adapt, we observe, we act where they least expect us, and we protect each other. That is how humans survive and how we win." Liara felt her heart swell with pride and respect. This human, so small and seemingly fragile, had the mind of a general, the courage of a warrior, and the determination of a force no one could stop. The team departed in small stealth ships, moving quietly through space. Asteroids and debris provided cover as they approached the raider base. Ethan monitored every movement, issuing precise instructions over the comms. "Left flank, watch for mines," he said. "Central unit, keep shields low to avoid detection. If we are spotted, use the energy bursts from the asteroids as cover." Even the Zalarian soldiers, accustomed to advanced tactics and technology, were impressed. Ethan anticipated moves they would not have considered, turning the moon's rough terrain into an ally. As they neared the base, automated defenses sprang to life. Energy beams flashed, drones descended, and alarms blared. The raiders had anticipated intruders, but they had not anticipated Ethan. "Split into groups," he ordered. "One unit distracts the outer drones. Another moves to disable the shield generators. Timing is everything." The team moved as one, coordinated and silent. Humans, Zalarian guards, and drones worked together seamlessly under Ethan's guidance. The first group created a diversion, drawing fire and attention. The second group, guided by Ethan, infiltrated the base through narrow service tunnels, avoiding main corridors and patrols. Inside the base, Ethan moved swiftly, his mind calculating every possibility. Guards were subdued quietly, traps were dismantled before they could be triggered, and security systems were bypassed with improvised tools. His small size and agility allowed him to navigate areas that Xylarian soldiers would have struggled to enter. At one point, a locked security door blocked the team's path. Without hesitation, Ethan examined the control panel and quickly devised a method to override it using the base's own energy supply. The door slid open, and the team pressed forward. Princess Liara followed closely, observing him. She had never seen anyone move with such confidence, such clarity, such control in a high-pressure situation. Every decision he made was precise, every action effective. She realized that his fury was not anger. It was a calm, unstoppable force of will, focused entirely on protecting others and achieving the mission. The team reached the shield generator, a towering structure that hummed with energy. 2 raiders were stationed there, heavily armed. Ethan studied them for a moment. He did not rush. He did not panic. Then, with quick, precise movements, he signaled the team to act. One unit created a distraction by activating a nearby control panel, causing sparks to fly. Another unit moved from the shadows, disabling the raiders' weapons. Within seconds, the enemies were subdued. Ethan quickly rewired the generator, causing it to shut down and leave the base vulnerable. "Shields are down," he reported over the comms. "Move now." The team pressed forward, moving toward the central command area. More guards appeared, more traps were triggered, but Ethan anticipated every move. His strategies were adaptive, flexible, and precise. Every challenge was met with calm confidence and human ingenuity. Finally, they reached the command center. The leader of the raiders, a tall, armored figure, stood before a massive console. "You think a handful of humans and aliens can defeat us?" he snarled. Ethan stepped forward, calm and steady. "It's not just numbers that matter," he said. "It's intelligence, courage, and the will to protect. Those are strengths you underestimate." The raider lunged, firing weapons that would have obliterated any ordinary human, but Ethan was ready. He dodged, using the environment to his advantage, turning the raider's own attacks against him. The fight was precise and controlled, a dance of strategy and adaptation. Within moments, the raider was defeated, disarmed, and the command console seized by Ethan's team. Liara watched in awe. The human she had once thought harmless had revealed his true strength. His fury was a force of intellect, courage, and determination, far beyond anything she had imagined. With the command center under control, the team disabled remaining defenses, freed captives, and gathered intelligence. They moved efficiently, leaving the base in disarray but intact, a warning to anyone who might underestimate humans. Ethan addressed the team. "We did not just win a battle," he said. "We showed that intelligence, courage, and determination can overcome strength, numbers, and advanced technology. Humans survive because we adapt and we fight for those we care about. That is our power." Liara felt a deep respect and admiration. She had learned a vital truth: humans were capable of feats far beyond what appearances suggested. Ethan, in particular, was not just clever. He was brilliant, fearless, and unstoppable when driven by purpose. The journey back to Zalaria was quiet, the team riding in their ships among the stars. The moon behind them, once a fortress of raiders, now lay silent, a testament to human ingenuity and bravery. Liara walked beside Ethan on the deck of the lead ship. "You've changed everything," she said softly. "I thought humans were fragile, harmless, small, but you've shown me that strength is not just in size or power, it's in mind, courage, and will." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans survive because we think, we adapt, and we protect. That's how we succeed, even against overwhelming odds." She looked at him, realizing that the human she had married was no ordinary being. His fury was quiet, controlled, and devastatingly effective. He had turned the impossible into reality, saving lives, defeating enemies, and proving the value of human determination. The stars stretched endlessly beyond them, and Liara understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and dangers, but with humans and with Ethan, the possibilities were limitless. And as the ship returned to Zalaria, Liara knew one thing with certainty. The human at her side was a force that no one could underestimate. His fury, calm but unyielding, had been revealed to all, and it was only the beginning of what humanity could achieve. The galaxy was quiet for a moment, but only just. The Raiders' defeat on the barren moon had sent shockwaves through their forces, yet the threat was far from over. Reports came in from nearby systems. Alien factions, inspired by the Raiders' failure, were mobilizing, seeking to test humanity and the Zalarian Empire. The stakes had risen, and at the center of this unfolding conflict stood Ethan, the human diplomat-turned-hero, whose mind and determination now inspired both humans and aliens alike. Princess Liara stood on the balcony of the palace, gazing at the stars. Her people moved quickly below her, fortifying defenses, repairing damage, and preparing for potential attacks. Yet despite the tension in the air, she felt a strange calm. Beside her stood Ethan, quiet and confident, surveying the preparations. She had long stopped thinking of him as fragile or harmless. The man beside her was now a symbol of hope and courage for everyone. "The enemy will not give up easily," Liara said softly. "We must be ready for anything." Ethan nodded. "And we are." Humans survive by thinking, adapting, and acting decisively. That is how we win. That is how we protect those we care about. Liara turned to him, her many eyes reflecting both admiration and pride. "I have never seen anyone like you. Your mind, your courage, your determination. You are not just human, you are extraordinary." Ethan smiled faintly, but his gaze returned to the stars. "Extraordinary or not, what matters is that we act, that we defend our home, our allies, and our people. That is the measure of strength." The first sign of the new threat came as distant flashes in the sky, ships moving fast, faster than any human or Zalarian fleet had seen before. Scanners revealed an armada approaching the planet, sleek and black, each vessel bristling with advanced weapons. This was no raiding party. This was a full-scale attack. Ethan moved quickly, coordinating with the Zalarian command. His strategy was clear. They could not match numbers, but they could outthink them. He divided the defense into multiple layers: orbital interceptors, ground-based defenses, and a mobile strike team ready to exploit weaknesses in the enemy formation. "Predictable attacks are easy to counter," he explained to the commanders. "They will assume we defend like we did last time. We will change our approach. Flexibility, adaptability, and speed will be our greatest weapons." The Zalarian commanders, impressed yet skeptical, followed his instructions. Ethan's calm, precise voice carried authority that transcended species and hierarchy. Even the youngest soldiers, both human and Zalarian, drew courage from his certainty. As the enemy fleet entered the system, the battle began. Energy beams lit the dark space, ships maneuvered with deadly precision, and alarms blared across Zalarian control rooms. Yet amidst the chaos, Ethan remained composed. He directed orbital fighters to create decoys, lured enemy vessels into narrow asteroid fields, and used unpredictable patterns that no alien could anticipate. "Use the debris as cover," he shouted over the comms. "The small ships flank left while the main fleet engages on the right. Timing is critical." Humans and Zalarian pilots alike executed his commands with precision. The enemy, expecting predictable moves, found themselves trapped in a dance they could not control. Energy blasts were deflected, ships were disabled, and confusion spread through their ranks. Liara watched from the palace's command center, her heart racing. Ethan's strategies were genius, combining human intuition, creativity, and adaptability with Zalarian technology. Where brute force might have failed, intelligence and foresight prevailed. On the surface of the planet, Ethan led a mobile strike team. Small, fast, and agile, the group moved through valleys, forests, and hills, striking at critical supply depots and communication hubs. Zalarian shields, once considered the pinnacle of defense, were enhanced with human-designed traps and tactics. The enemy had expected fear and hesitation. Instead, they faced calculated courage and ingenuity. Liara followed in a command vehicle, observing the human in action. Every decision Ethan made was precise. He directed units to avoid traps, anticipate reinforcements, and use environmental advantages. When a group of enemy drones descended from above, Ethan guided the team to lure them into a canyon where their sensors malfunctioned. With quick improvisation, the drones were disabled without casualties. "I've underestimated humans," Liara admitted to herself. "Not their courage alone, but their intelligence, their adaptability, and Ethan's leadership. He is extraordinary." The climax of the battle came as the enemy's command vessel approached the planet's surface, intent on direct attack. Ethan devised a bold plan, a simultaneous orbital strike to weaken the vessel's shields, while the mobile strike team infiltrated its defenses. "Timing is everything," he told Liara. "If we fail, the planet could be destroyed, but if we succeed, we end this threat." With calm precision, the plan was executed. Orbital fighters moved as decoys, drawing the enemy's fire, while the strike team, led by Ethan, approached from hidden corridors and maintenance tunnels. The humans' small size and agility allowed them to navigate areas that Xylarian soldiers could not. Inside the enemy vessel, Ethan's mind raced. Security systems, automated defenses, and alien guards all threatened the mission. But he adapted to every obstacle, improvising tools, bypassing locks, and guiding his team with confidence. His fury, quiet, controlled, and unstoppable, manifested in every calculated move. The team reached the vessel's core. With precise coordination, they disabled the weapon's systems and communications. The enemy leader confronted them, armored and imposing, but Ethan was unshaken. "You cannot win," the leader snarled. Ethan smiled faintly. "Winning isn't just about weapons or numbers. It's about courage, intelligence, and the will to protect what matters. That is where humanity excels." With a swift, clever maneuver, Ethan and the team turned the enemy's own systems against them. Energy blasts were reflected back, automated defenses neutralized, and the command vessel rendered powerless. The leader, stunned by the unexpected tactics, was captured. The victory was total. The enemy fleet, leaderless and disorganized, retreated into the depths of space. Xylarian citizens cheered, humans celebrated, and the alliance between planets had never been stronger. Princess Liara stood beside Ethan on the balcony of the palace, watching the aftermath. The stars, once threatening and distant, now seemed to shine with a new light. "You've done it," she said softly. "You've not only saved Xylaria, but you've proven something far greater. Humans are powerful, clever, and fearless, and you—" Ethan shook his head, smiling gently. "It wasn't me alone, it was all of us. Humans, Xylarians working together. That is how we win, that is how we protect what matters." Liara placed her hand on his arm. "And yet I see it in you, your fury, your determination. You are extraordinary. I have never seen anyone like you." Ethan's gaze swept across the city below, across the stars above. "Extraordinary is not the point. The point is to act, to adapt, and to protect. That is what humans do, and now, together, so do we." The city of Xylaria celebrated for days. Humans were no longer seen as fragile outsiders. They were equals, partners, and heroes. The alliance between planets grew stronger, united by shared courage, intelligence, and determination. Princess Liara, once doubtful and amused by her husband's appearance, now knew the truth. Underestimating humans was a mistake no one would ever make again. Ethan had revealed the hidden power of his species, not through brute force, but through mind, creativity, and controlled fury. The human diplomat who had once seemed harmless was now a symbol of hope and inspiration. His leadership, courage, and intelligence had turned the tide of war and proved that humanity could face any challenge the galaxy might throw at them. Liara looked at him, her admiration deep and unshakable. "I thought I married a harmless human," she said softly. "But now I know you are unstoppable," Ethan chuckled lightly. "Harmless or not, we all have our strengths. What matters is how we use them." And with the stars above Xylaria shining brightly, the galaxy knew one thing for certain. Humans, led by their determination, ingenuity, and courage, had arrived. The fury of humanity, quiet but unyielding, had been revealed, and nothing would ever underestimate it again. The alliance of humans and Xylarians stood united, ready for whatever challenges the stars held next. And at the heart of it all, Princess Liara and her human husband stood together, proof that courage, intelligence, and determination could overcome any threat in the galaxy.